Well, it's not live unless there's at least one little blip. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Get the headlines in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com, where you can find the latest, including Illinois population numbers being released, gaining for 3 straight years. We'll take a deep dive into that. But also, we got to address some of the things about immigration enforcement with President Donald Trump's comments yesterday concerning a shakeup of sorts in how Minneapolis is being handled. But also in Chicago, you've got Mayor Brandon Johnson saying that they're looking to prosecute wrongdoers in Congress. So those are the things we're going to be tackling here with Illinois in Focus Daily. All right. So be sure to get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning and wake up with us here for more Illinois in Focus Daily. And big things coming for the Center Square. So hopefully you do stay subscribed. And for all of those in the live chat this morning, thumbs up if we've got good audio and lip syncs all good. So give me that thumbs up and we'll be ready to rock and roll. All right. Again, Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. The state of Illinois seeing an increase in population over the past 3 years, according to the U.S. Census. But some of those numbers still not back to where they were in 2020. That's the latest out of the U.S. Census when it comes to the Illinois numbers. I'm Greg Bishop. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. You can wake up with us here each and every weekday morning for the latest. And Governor J.B. Pritzker already out heralding the increase in a news release his office put out yesterday. He says that third consecutive year of population growth for Illinois. Illinois population, the governor's office says, has grown for the third consecutive year, according to new estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau released Tuesday. Between July 1st, 2024 and July 1st, 2025, Illinois added 16,100 residents, and an increase of more than 100,000 since 2022. Illinois recording its third consecutive population growth year as the state remains focused on strengthening the factors that help people choose to stay and build their lives here. The governor continues saying that's why we are focused on making long-term investments in education, public safety, and economic opportunity so families can raise their kids here, workers can build careers, and entrepreneurs can start and grow businesses across Illinois. Illinois experienced population growth in the last year, in part due to natural population gains and slowing domestic outmigration. Illinois birth rate continues to outpace deaths. You got net domestic outmigration fell to 40,000 residents, the lowest level in 15 years. And that net migration out, those are the people from Illinois moving to other domestic places like Indiana, for instance. Recent population estimates, the governor's office says, reflect efforts for state officials to improve the accuracy of Illinois' census data. And it goes into some of the battles that the state of Illinois has had over the U.S. Census count. And so those numbers coming out, doing some number crunching, you've got the places and people are moving to. The domestic migration, we'll pull this up, and this is a chart pulling those numbers, and you can see here, this is the top 6 states that Illinoisans are moving to. All right, so domestic migration for 2025. And you can see here, Missouri, a lot of people moving from Illinois to Missouri. And this is just the last year. A lot of people moving from Illinois to California. A lot of people moving from Illinois to Texas, to Wisconsin, to Florida. And then the most people moving from Illinois are going to Indiana. So the fact that you've got several bordering states here, that's an indication of the domestic migration. Now, the governor's office talks about the domestic migration out of Illinois slowing. Here's a chart from the 2020 to 2025 showing just that. Here is, in 2020 numbers, negative migration out of the state. In 2021, continued negative migration out of the state to the tune of more than 100,000 in 2021. In 2022, 150,000 people left the state of Illinois for other states. In 2023, you've got, about 75,000 people. 2024, right around 50,000 people, and then around 40,000 plus in 2025. Moving out of the state of Illinois to another state. And then you look at the international migration, and you can see these are all positive numbers. These are numbers of people moving from outside of the country to Illinois. And if we just compare these two charts, you got negative out domestic migration for the past, since 2020. And then you've got a spike of international migration to Illinois in 2024, all positive from 2020. You can see how the net migration in Illinois is increasing over the past 3 years. So again, the number of people moving into Illinois from other countries outpacing the number of domestic migration out of Illinois. So all of this obviously is going to be debated as the governor heralded the numbers in a news release. He's expected to be asked about it come a news conference he's holding later on today up in Chicago. So we'll see what he has to say on that end. But obviously, as we get closer to budget time, there's going to be more conversation about taxation. Last week, Illinois Republican State Representative Joe Cisnowski, he shared that looks like Democrats are just going to continue to ask for more money from taxpayers.
There's also, a lot of talk from Democrats, as I mentioned, talk about affordability. Again, as we mentioned, as the leader mentioned, they're not doing anything about affordability. They're finding more programs to spend more money on. And all that is doing is giving them excuses to increase taxes on everybody here in the state of Illinois.
Now, Cisnowski standing with other Republican leaders, including Leader McCombie, who we'll hear from here in a moment. But yesterday, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson talked about taxation and how he's continuing to push to tax the wealthy.
I would actually be curious how politicians feel about the polling that I just described. That overwhelmingly, working people believe that politicians should do more to challenge the ultra rich. That's what my focus will always be. It's not about my own personal ambition or endeavor. I have one responsibility: to build the safest, most affordable big city in America and stand up for working people.
So he continues to push for like a millionaire's tax. But clearly, when you've got people moving out of the state of Illinois year after year after year, domestic migration out of the state of Illinois, may have slowed as the trend shows. But you still have people moving out of the state of Illinois. They're taking their tax dollars with them. Another number we'll be looking for is from the Internal Revenue Service that talks about, gross taxes moving to other states. And Illinois in the past has seen $10+ billion annually move out of the state of Illinois. Are these high income earners that you've got Brandon Johnson looking to tax the rich? And if they continue to move out of the state, does that mean the burden is going to continue to be on those lower income people? Or, for instance, the international migration into the state, are they going to be able to cover the income tax receipts that are fleeing the state of Illinois? Illinois House Minority Leader Tony McCombie talking about this idea of more programs, more spending, and how it's unsustainable.
We have 550,000 people that have come here. That is, we've spent over $2 billion on healthcare, education, and housing for illegal immigrants. Inflation has gone down 70% under Donald Trump compared to Biden. So certainly we are in a much better place. And the only reason costs are up here in Illinois is because of bills that they continue to pass here. I mean, they spent $8 billion on a fake energy bill just 3 months ago.
So you got the legislature going to be considering, obviously, tax policies and how those impact you, the taxpayer in Illinois, with that latest population data. And obviously, we'll be dissecting that even more and more as we look at different crosstabs of the population numbers. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning for the latest from the Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com and get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning.
To shake up your leadership team in Minnesota and send Tom
I do that all the time. I shake up teams. Everybody here, these are a lot of owners of farms and places, and you shake up your team. If they can't do the crops fast enough, look, we have an incredible team. We did something that nobody said was possible. We did something that I would say people thought that was absolutely impossible, and we were able to do it. So we're very honored by what's happened to our country.
It's President Donald Trump last night visiting a diner before he gave a speech, and he's talking about crime and addressing the immigration issue in Minnesota as the president shakes his team up, taking Gregory Bavino and moving him out and bringing Tom Homan in. And Tom Homan touching base with local leaders there. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. So the president talking about crime and bringing it down, but obviously with that shakeup, he talked about how he's working to de-escalate the situation and the tensions in Minneapolis after the shooting death of Alex Preddy. Here is the president talking about addressing crime.
Just had a crime report coming out from, I think, one of the networks, which they hate to hear this, but crime is the lowest number ever recorded. Yeah. So, we talk about Minnesota, but in Minnesota, you probably read, their crime is way down. You know why? Because we took out thousands of criminals out of Minnesota, and that's why it's good.
But obviously, you've got the questions and concerns about how that's being conducted with that shooting death of Alex Preddy. And also the police-involved shooting death of Renee Good, both who showed up to official immigration enforcement operations and seemed to be impeding those operations. Preddy having a firearm on him. Trump saying that, you shouldn't be showing up to these types of places with firearms.
Do you think he was acting as an assassin in Minneapolis?
Who is that?
Mr. Preddy, your deputy chief of staff said that. You didn't say you were
With that being said, you can't have guns. You can't walk in with guns. You just can't. And you can't, listen, you can't walk in with guns. You can't do that. But it's just a very unfortunate.
So the president saying that you can't walk into these areas with firearms, and there's still an investigation ongoing with that. But Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson talking yesterday about how he wants the city of Chicago to do something about prosecuting what he says are bad actors in the federal government.
We have to seriously look at how local government can ultimately not just bring charges and investigation against the federal overreach, but how we can create a process that allows for prosecution of these individuals on the streets across this country.
And obviously with the situation in Minneapolis still very much top of mind, that's where the mayor is training his focus. And again, talking about the steps that he thinks Chicago can take to have some more accountability for ICE.
Specifically, we are discussing an amendment that would allow COPA to investigate alleged violations of our Welcoming City Ordinance. This is an important amendment that we have championed since the internal review we conducted with our IMER team following the June 4th ICE raid.
So that ICE raid that he mentions there, there's a lot of discussion about a landlord who in an apartment building may have tipped ICE off, and there's a state investigation into that. And if so, I mean, you've got a private property owner who's tipping off law enforcement. I know that Illinois passed migrant sanctuary laws to essentially say that those here as non-citizens shouldn't have to fear going to police to report things, being the victim of a crime. But is the state going to look to investigate somebody who's reporting a federal crime? Is that going to chill other landlords in doing the same thing? We'll see how that situation plays out. But obviously, a lot of your tax dollars funding all of these operations, including the local governments who, in some jurisdictions, are opposing federal immigration enforcement. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell right here with the Center Square. All right, appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. A lot still to cover. Got the governor today. He's going to be holding a news conference after announcing a new program to fund things with your tax dollars. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, but we'll also likely hear him talk about the population numbers. Maybe we can get him to respond to why, as you saw earlier this week, a 725% increase of Medicaid coverage for children without Social Security numbers. So does that play into the migration numbers that we saw before? All right, have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. We'll be back here tomorrow with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily.